Hello and welcome to Stronger Voices Together, brought to you by John Lyons Charity, a podcast dedicated to exploring the diverse, vibrant world of disability and inclusion. The charity's funding strives to support all children and young people through education, including those with learning and access needs, championing their right to access the same opportunities as anyone else. I'm your host, Lucy Edwards, blind broadcaster, content creator and disability activist, and I'm delighted to be on this journey with you. For those of you listening to this podcast and not watching, I'm joined by my gorgeous guide dog, Miss Molly, at my feet. My audio description is that I've got a forest green dress on. It's velour in feel and touch, and I'm wearing a nude lipstick and coral eyeshadow. In this episode, we will be talking about how important it is that families can participate in activities all together. Join us as we uncover the often overlooked challenges that families face when finding suitable activities for their children with learning and access needs, and discuss what role organisations can play in embracing the whole family unit. Through this conversation, we will share positive solutions to foster a more inclusive environment for the remarkable young people at the heart of these families. In today's episode, I am joined by Katie Sparks, founder and CEO of Flamingo Chicks, who is also a parent of the gorgeous Poppy who has cerebral palsy, and founder of Portraits of Grit, April Lee, who is the parent of two wonderful girls, one of whom has complex needs. Hello both. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, hi, Lucy.
Hello. And I always love to start these podcasts with a quick audio description of what you both look like, your pronouns, and also a bit more about what you do. So Katie, can we start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Katie. I'm a white woman with long dark hair. Today I'm wearing a floral winter dress, and my pronouns are she, her. I founded Flamingo Chicks for my daughter Poppy that you mentioned, which is a wonderful place where all children can come and dance and explore movement, and have a wonderful time full of magic and sparkle.
Oh, I love that, magic and sparkle. What about you, April?
I'm a Chinese woman with shoulder-length black hair. I'm wearing a cream-coloured knit cardigan, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. As you said, I'm a mother of two girls. My oldest has a condition called tuberous sclerosis. She inspired me to start something called Portraits of Grit, which is a platform on Instagram where I speak with other families about their experiences of sort of lived experiences of disability. And that's me.
Love it. Thank you so much for your introductions. So for both of you, I've got a question to start with. Can you both explain a bit about what it's like for a family living with a disability? Who wants to go first?
I guess it's joyful. It's often hilarious. It's also exhausting, stressful, sort of quite chaotic. My daughter, one of the main manifestations of her condition is that she has seizures. And so there's often quite a lot of chat about, her seizures that day. But above all, I think we don't really go through life sort of day by day thinking about the disability part. We're just sort of a very busy family, like most other families, I think, but dealing with a lot of different issues flying in the air at any given time. is how I'd explain it.
Yeah. What about you, Katie?
I think April, I think you summed that up perfectly, and I can relate to a lot of that. I would definitely say it's a wonderful whirlwind. I think it's probably a good way of describing it. I think there's some really extreme highs. There's also some really extreme lows and everything in between. I adopted my daughter Poppy when she was about 6 months old. So I chose her. I knew of her disability. I knew, so I was expecting, I guess, what I say I was expecting, I guess I had certain expectations, and absolutely, I don't think it's been anything at all like I expected. We've had some of the most incredible experiences. It's been a really, I think joyful, when you said is a really lovely word, it's been a really joyful word, but equally at times it's, I think, pushed us to the edge. It's been incredibly challenging, but what a journey and what we've learned. But I think it is definitely a journey unlike no other.
Yes, and I think I really relate to the sort of highs and lows, because I almost feel like I feel post having children, I feel more of my emotions. So when you're happy, you are so happy, like to a degree that I probably hadn't experienced prior to that. And equally, when you face your challenges, sometimes you get really kind of bogged down and stuck, and you can feel like there are no solutions, and that can get you quite down. But I think, yeah, just what Mia has brought to our family for sure, I think, is that sort of extremeness in terms of emotions that you feel. And she's a massive, like, bundle of love. Like, she is so affectionate.
Oh, I love it. And I think it's so important for people listening to this podcast, if they've never kind of, they don't understand what it's like to be in a family with a disabled young person. I think it's so important just to highlight for everybody the challenges that you guys face, because I know there's so many positives, but I want people to learn from this, and this to be a fantastic resource. So both of you, as parents of young people with additional needs, what struggles / frustrations would you find when it came to accessible opportunities for your young children?
Yeah, I think quite often the journey is a constant fight for the support that you need across the way. And I know at Flamingo Chicks, one of the things that we try to do for our families is, as well as providing a space for children to be able to dance and explore movement, it's also equipping parents and carers with the tools they need. I think sometimes as a parent, you spend 24/7 with them. You can pick up on their needs, their desires, their all the different things. And I think that's probably my biggest frustration, that throughout Poppy's 17 years so far, the common theme is that fighting for resources, that fighting for understanding, that fighting for what your child deserves, that can enable them to live that full potential.
Yeah. And it's so lovely that, you know, as a parent, you're there for Poppy, but I guess there's maybe some parents and carers that just don't know or don't have that fight. You know, we're constantly fighting as disabled people and carers and parents. I know that my mum and dad fought for me, you know, just to even get technology that would kind of connect, that was accessible for me to do my studies. Or what about yourself, April? Do you find that you've had a lot of challenges when trying to kind of just access things?
Yeah, I think what Katie said about sort of living up to your potential, wanting your kids to sort of live up to their full potential, really resonates, because, and across sort of discussions I've had with other families, there's this constant theme of being told, like, the limits. You know, she won't be able to do this, she can't do this. And, you know, doctors will tell you that at birth when they are diagnosed. Like, no one has a crystal ball. No. But when you are in shock because you know, it may be completely new and unexpected to you, you take on face value what people say to you.
What they say.
And what we went back, what you said earlier about it being a journey, is I think some people, unfortunately, sort of, they get stuck in that and they can't get beyond how, you know, the challenges, and can't see beyond just the challenges of daily life, whilst others sort of think, you know what, I'm not going to limit what my child can't do. And it's just, but that involves quite a lot of strength and fight.
And resilience.
For families, I think it's constantly being told, you can't do this, we can't do this, you can't do that. And then for the young person as well, it's always being told, look at me, do this, do that. It's always instructional about, how you should be. And, if you look at sort of the neurotypical world, we don't typically tell kids, oh, you're not going to be able to do that. Don't even bother looking at that. So it's quite frustrating from that perspective.
Very much so. Yeah, I know what you mean. I remember being in long waiting rooms with my mom at the eye hospital and feeling that sense of despair and vulnerability when you're told different things about your condition. Definitely.
And I think the trouble is that it sometimes sows a seed of doubt in you as a parent, because you think, well, they've seen presumably lots of patients with this condition or this, so they must know. And so there's a part of you that thinks, well, maybe this is the best it will get.
Yeah.
And then there's another part that fights back and thinks, well, maybe it's not. And if it's not, then why are we stopping here?
It's quite hard to go up against professionals sometimes because you very much respect them and exactly like you say, you validate their experience and so on. But at the end of the day, we are the experts for our children. But I totally agree. And Lucy, you mentioned about, having the confidence, the ability to articulate yourself and fight. And at times you might not be in that place or you might not be able to do that. And I've certainly been in a couple of situations where I've had to really go out of my comfort zone to advocate for Poppy. And that's something I think it's only now, like I said, 17 years into the journey that I'm getting much more confident doing. But certainly in the early days, I found that hard.
Are there more accessible opportunities and activities for you now, or is there still a gap that needs bridging? Could you talk to me about those activities and how you found them?
I have found with Poppy that with age, it gets harder. Sadly, if I'm honest. I think when she was younger, there were more opportunities. And I think as she's got older, I found it a little bit harder. Obviously, I started Flamingo Chicks for Poppy because Poppy wanted to dance. At the time she was 7, she was a wheelchair user. She also had quite a few other challenges and a complex learning disability. And we just found it so difficult to find anywhere that we could go and she could be her and have that enjoyment. I think the other thing that I'm so passionate about is inclusive opportunities. There's always a story that people tell you, I don't know if you've heard it before, about when you have a disabled child often, that it's like you're imagining that you're off on holiday to Italy. And you and all your friends are going off to Italy and everyone's excited about this lovely holiday. And then when you get on the plane, you find that they've all gone to Italy and you're going to Holland. Now, Holland is just as beautiful and there's tulips and bikes and lovely things. And that's kind of supposed to be the end of the story. That story always used to really frustrate me because I was like, but I just want to be with everyone else. I don't mind if I'm going to Holland and I don't mind if I'm going to Italy, but I don't want to be segregated. And I found that when I started out my journey with Poppy, everything was very much disability only or mainstream. And I found it really difficult to find somewhere in the middle, which is why we created Flamingo Chicks. I'm so passionate about inclusion. If you look at, there's so much research out there. I think it's something like 40% of parents say that their child never has the opportunity to play, their disabled child never has the opportunity to play with other non-disabled children. And I would certainly say that I found that very difficult for Poppy. But unless everybody has exposure to different types of people and children have those opportunities, as a society, we don't grow, we don't have that understanding, we don't push those, we don't break down those barriers to inclusion. That's also one of the reasons that with Flamingo Chicks, I chose a name that was kind of just a beautiful, gorgeous bird and loveliness, and it's all about the magic and the sparkle and the wonder and the colours, and that's very much at the forefront. And we work really, really hard, and we're super passionate about inclusion and making sure that everybody's welcome and can take part. I've definitely found it harder to seek out different opportunities for Pops, especially as she gets older. And the number one hard thing is finding somewhere where you don't have to stay with your child. And as much as sometimes it's lovely to do things with her, equally, she needs a break from us and we need respite from her. She's a young adult now and she needs to be able to grow and so on. But I find it very difficult to find opportunities where she can do things on her own without us having to accompany her.
What about you, April?
That for me actually doesn't even enter the equation. Like I kind of I didn't even think about there might be opportunities where she could go off and be independent and do something on her own, because we very much do everything as a family. So it's either we can all do it or we don't do it. I think when she was younger, I think her disability was not visible. It's still sort of not particularly visible. And so you can go to shows, etc., and it's sort of easier in that way. I think as she's gotten older, people probably realize she's a little bit different. But I'd say it comes from the family as to how comfortable you feel going to places and potentially having people react or not react. It really bothers some people to the point where they will just say, you know what, it's just not worth it. Whereas other people, will go and be like, stare all you like, I don't care. I think the point about inclusion is really important because, if you're going to break down the barrier and educate people, I think the actually best way to educate people, and it's siblings, I think, are case in point, is that if you actually get the opportunity to just hang out with someone that's a little bit different, that's all it takes for people to understand, actually, it's not that different, right? And so then you kind of break down the sort of, I guess people get scared or they don't know what to say or do. But in terms of activities, I was always very frustrated when I had my younger one, that I realized, there are activities like flooding me through the door for her. And yet for Mia, it takes you seeking it out. Like they're not pouring in through the letterbox. Like, there's just such a difference in. Even now, would you say they're not pouring through the letterbox, or is that just previously? I mean, now I think you build a network as you evolve, and so you hear things from other families, etc. But still, it's very much driven by like, let's go out there and find something that we can all do.
Mm-hmm. And actually, even if you do something, whether it's you're doing it with your child or they're doing it on their own, if that's a possibility. I know with Poppy, we never know how she'll be, and quite often it's not always successful.
Yeah.
We have to do a lot of prep before we go to an event. Maybe doing visual timetables, showing her what it'll look like. Maybe doing a pre-visit, even if it's just a couple of hours somewhere, a recreational fun activity or something. There's a lot of work that can go into it, and you never quite know how it will be. And on those rare occasions where if it is a chance for her to go somewhere, it'll be something you're always checking your phone, you're always on call, you're always on those kind of tenterhooks.
There's a lot of planning involved, but then there's also the stress when you're there of, is everyone okay? Just kind of predicting what might happen next. And, are there accessible toilets for, some families, etc. You'd be surprised, not everywhere, caters for some quite basic needs.
Yeah. And is there any standout kind of activity or place or group that you've been to as a family recently that you can think of? Or is it, in case of yourself, Flamingo Chicks is kind of where it's at?
I would definitely say Flamingo Chicks is where it's at.
Yeah.
I think obviously I'm biased because I started Flamingo Chicks, but I think that the thing that we do really well is that holistic approach. The starting point for us is around tackling social isolation, creating opportunities, and we use dance as the vehicle to do that rather than starting with a real passion for dance. we try to equip our parents and carers with the tools that they need early on. We try to create these opportunities for the children. And I think, that's the strength in that kind of holistic approach and seeing it as a whole unit, because, supporting the parents helps the children, giving the children different opportunities to develop. And I think with Flamingo Chicks, Poppy did very well choosing the genre of ballet, because ballet is great. It's multi-layered. You've got characterization, props, wonderful costumes, music, loads of different layers. It's great for muscle tone, posture, coordination, forging friendships. There's so many layers now.
What are the limitations that families face in accessing opportunities, and why, do you think? Is there a stigma or nervousness?
I think there's the main things in it. I think it's something that affects sort of arts and culture throughout, is the affordability of it, especially when you're not sure whether or not your child will enjoy it. There's sort of the access and getting there. Some people, it's sort of, is it the right time of day? A lot of museums do, what they call the quiet hour. Often that quiet hour is like first thing in the morning. And it's just not possible. Like as great as it is, it's not practical. And then there's sort of basic things, like I said before, about sort of getting around the actual venue when you're there. And then also the sort of stress of potentially, depending on your own viewpoint, of like other people and how they might react, I suppose.
Yeah, I think as parents and carers, I think sometimes, certainly I know at times I've been overprotective of Poppy, particularly if she's had bad experiences, and you want to make sure that it's a really good experience for her. And then there's a real flip side to that as well. And I'm talking here both thinking about some of our families that access Flamingo Chicks, but also as Poppy's mum. And I think sometimes if you do find an opportunity that looks really good, and sometimes there's a registration form when they might ask for information about your child, we see sometimes you don't quite know how much to put on the form. And we find with our parents that, I'll give you an example. I'll change the conditions slightly, obviously, to protect the identity of the child. But for example, we had a child that joined one of our dance classes, and the mum had put, I think she put mild special needs, I think was the phrase that she used. And obviously it was quite vague and we didn't quite know what that meant. And over the weeks, it transpired that her child had a significant visual impairment, had a brain tumour and severely challenging behaviour. But the mum was so excited about the prospect of her being able to come to the class that she didn't want to explain the kind of full challenges, I suppose, because she was afraid that we wouldn't then welcome her child. And I think that's something that all organisations can really do, is show that actually the more information we have, the more adjustments, and we can make it comfortable, and actually it helps everybody. But I think as a parent, you have that fear, and I've absolutely done that myself. And I think sometimes as the parents, it's having that confidence and being supported by the organisations to be able to...
Yeah, the support, I think, when I think about good examples, I remember signing up for an access sort of... access list, or I think what they call it. And there was a whole very long list. It wasn't sort of just a token, tick the box, like, and tell us what your need is. It was like a really long, specific list of what your requirements may be. And, a lot of them were actually not relevant for me. But then what I found staggering was that was then followed up by a phone call by someone from that theatre who just wanted to chat some more. And they were so sort of welcoming, and so kind of like, just before I even got to the theatre, all my fears had kind of gone, because I was like, I know that they are fully welcoming, and all it took was just a little bit more effort, and for you to actually feel that actually this is not a token kind of, we have to do this for compliance. Actually, we want to make sure that your visit, we understand that you may have you may need a little bit more support, and we're fully here if you need it. And we're fully not here if you don't want us to be.
That makes such a difference, doesn't it?
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and where can families go to source more information around accessible opportunities?
I think I'd probably say 90% of the gems of things I found have been through other parents and carers. It doesn't have to be children that have similar disabilities to your child. It can be it's amazing how different it's just being part of the community and learning and getting those tips and ideas and recommendations from people.
Yeah, definitely sort of word of mouth. And I think the other part of it is actually just being confident enough wherever you choose to go to ask, actually, I have these slightly different needs. Is there something you can do to support us when we come and visit? And 9 times out of 10, like, people are quite responsive. I'm not sure that there is a sort of treasure trove of somewhere that
Yeah, I mean, there are directories and things like that, but I think it goes back to that question as a parent, that you want that reassurance it's going to be okay. And I think that's why, if it comes from another parent or carer or from a young person, I think that gives you that reassurance, and maybe if you're, that confidence to then try it and access it. So I would definitely say, yeah, wholeheartedly, some of the really good things we found have definitely come from other parents and carers.
A lot of my daughter as well, and a lot of her friends sort of experience the world in a very sensory type of way. So I tend to look for activities that are more sort of sensory theatre type, or sort of outdoors. She loves nature, trails and, sort of parks, Christmas trails, etc. Yeah, often it's just, you just have to have a go. Yeah. And if she doesn't enjoy it, she doesn't enjoy it, but she might love it. So,
yeah. April, thank you so much for joining us for this podcast. It's been really lovely to hear about your insights. So thank you. And Katie, you're going to stick with us, aren't you, for part 2? So that's going to be exciting. But yeah, thank you both so much. I've learned so much from you.
Oh, thank you, Lucy.
And now we're just going to go to a short testimonial and then on to part 2.
Hi, my name's Justin, and my partner and I adopted 2 amazing girls 11 years ago, and they are now 12 and 14. In the current climate, the challenges faced by STEM families are immense. It requires huge resilience and resources to navigate a system which is just not designed for my children, nor for my family, and nor for many SEND and neurodivergent children. We find ourselves battling to ensure our children are understood and heard, and that they get the support that they need, but also that they deserve. Within that, I feel very lucky. I have an amazing partner, and we have good friends around us, and we are privileged to be able to make choices which prioritise our children, including financially. My partner is primary carer for our daughters at the moment, and I'm really conscious of the additional sacrifices that they have had to make in order to fill gaps that the system has left behind. There have been some things that have worked and some parts of the system which have been amazing. And these are things that we'd like to see more of, and we'd like to see more resources put into and some more support for. Trauma-informed approaches are really key. We want to see that as consistently part of how we are thinking about how we are supporting all children. And it's an obvious one, but coordination of services is really key as well. And it's one thing that over the past 10 years, we've seen that there's less resource and less support for, but joined up coordinated services, all working for children and young people themselves, is absolutely key. The final one is the power of the voluntary sector. The thing that's made the biggest difference in the last few months has been youth workers with both our children. They've been able to engage with our children in a way that formal education is not able to. It's been focused on the young people themselves as individuals. It's been about them, and they've massively valued that. And we think that's a huge opportunity to do more and to support more inclusion and more opportunities through the voluntary sector.
So that was such an amazing testimonial from a father's perspective. Welcome back to part 2 of this episode. That was a really interesting and raw conversation with Katie and April about the experiences they have faced with their children. Huge thank you to April for her contribution. We are still joined by Katie Sparks for this second part of this episode, alongside Layne Harrod, Head of Programmes at Go Live Theatre Projects. Thank you so much for joining me both. Layne, I just wondered, we start our episodes with a bit of an audio description of what you look like, your pronouns, and also a bit more about what you do.
Sure. So my pronouns are she, her. I am median height. I have long blonde hair. Today I am wearing a jumper that is orange, blue and pink, black jeans and some pink trainers. My job role is head of programmes at Go Live Theatre Projects. So I oversee all of the programmes that we deliver that take place in school settings, special schools, community settings, and our work with families.
Love it. Thank you so much. First question. What advice would you give an organisation to help them implement simple changes that make a long-lasting impact? Layne, should we start with you?
Sure. I think it's about really working closely with partners and families and really listening to the needs of the families and what will help them to access the offer that you have, the activities that you're running. So we have a family forum who meet quarterly, and we try to listen to what they're telling us and embed that within our organisation. I think being responsive to need is crucial.
What about you, Katie?
To add to that, I would definitely say start with the voices of the young people. So Flamingo Chicks, similar to you, we have a group called the Agents of Change. So they're 40 young disabled people, and they absolutely lead the direction. They help us with the organisation. They come up with new ideas. They help us with our governance. They get involved in all aspects of what we do, and that makes a really big difference. Also, we have parents and carers forums, and as well as that, we run professionals roundtables. So we have kind of hands-on facilitated groups with education, healthcare, and social care professionals, so that we can have that wonderful melting pot of everybody's skills and expertise and make sure that our offer can be the best it possibly can.
Brilliant. And have you ever felt like an organisation's offering is tokenistic? How can organisations avoid this going forward? Layne, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think it is about embedding it through everything that you do. So similar to you, Katie, we have a youth forum of young people who are aged between 15 to 23. And we have 2 of those young people who actually sit on our board as well. Mm-hmm. So we are trying to incorporate that youth voice in the decisions that we make as an organisation and a charity, and really consult them. Yeah.
Katie, what would you say? Have you come across any tokenistic offerings?
I think there's always those. I think there's always examples out there, but I think it's very important, like you say, to focus on the positives and focus on best practice and what works well. And I would definitely say that I think having an advocacy board. I love what you do with your young trustees. I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm, definitely. How can organisations involve families in the planning stages of their activities? And how can they work together to make families more comfortable and confident accessing their opportunities? What do you think?
I think finding a way, lots of different ways for people to get involved, particularly using sensory activities, can be really fun. So to give you a good example, at Flamingo Chicks, we recently built our first mobile theatre, which is very exciting. Oh. So it's a pop-up sensory theatre, which has an interconnecting canopy. So there's lots of dangly, beautiful, gorgeous things to look at, to smell, to feel, to touch. And this can pop up indoors or outdoors, absolutely anywhere. So it can be at a hospital, a school, a community festival, anywhere. But the way we created it was we had the dance captain from The Lion King who worked with our young people and their families, and they all made shoebox theatres. And actually it was a really lovely way of them coming up with ideas in a very practical, physical way. So they all made these beautiful creations, which was then built and is now this real life construction. And I think for some of our young people, they found it easier to be able to give their views and ideas through a sensory activity rather than maybe articulating it in words. So we always try to make sure that there's different ways for people to be able to contribute. And that's a really good example of how particularly tactile sensory activities can be a great way to feed into ideas to make something really magical happen.
Oh, I love that. What about you, Layne?
I think for our family programmes that we run, so we run Stage Scene and Envision, which are family days for families that have young people that are deaf or hard of hearing or blind or have a visual impairment. We try to bring them in right at the start into the decisions and planning that we make around those projects. And then importantly, we survey them afterwards to get their feedback, what changes we could make to improve next time we run the programme. So it's a constant conversation, it's forever evolving. So it's not something set in stone that this is the way we deliver this offer and this activity, because people's needs obviously change as well. So we don't want to get stuck in a way of delivering that we think works. We're continually reviewing, is this still working? Is there anything we need to change? And that's the approach we take to our relaxed performances that we deliver as well. So again, we consult our audiences after and see if there's anything we can change to make it a more comfortable, enjoyable experience for everyone.
What is a relaxed performance?
So a relaxed performance is where some adaptations have been made to the show itself to make it a more comfortable experience for the audience. So for example, if there are some particularly loud noises that might be uncomfortable for some members of the audience, we can suggest that they might lower those sounds. We also make changes to the venue itself, to the environment of the building. So we would suggest that the lighting is kept up quite high, so it's not too dim in the auditorium. Also, that doors are left open so that if people do want to wander out of the space and come back in at their leisure, that is welcome. Something we also do is ask the cast members to come out at the start and introduce themselves, and they will talk about the character that they play or perhaps the mask they might put on, which hopefully will help some of the audience members feel at ease when they come to see something that might be potentially a little bit scary at times.
How did you go about developing that programme in the first place?
The relaxed performances. So we felt that there was quite a lack of relaxed performances within the commercial theatre, within the West End in London. And so we've been working closely with lots of different producers and theatres to try to increase the number of relaxed performances that are being made available to families. And we have expertise within our organisation. So we have an SEND dedicated programme manager, and that is their specialism and area of work, and we invest in training. So we have deaf awareness training for our staff, various other training opportunities to ensure that we are equipped and we have that knowledge and understanding, whilst also consulting with those people that we want to engage with through the relaxed performances offer. So we will bring people along to watch shows with us and to make suggestions for show adaptations that can be made that might be more suitable for audience members, as well as changes that we can make to the environment to make it a really welcoming experience for everyone.
Love that. And Katie, could you give us an example of what programmes you at Flamingo Chicks kind of develop, how you develop them, and just give us a bit of a flavour for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our mainstay is our dance classes, which are fully inclusive, and we have a range of sensory props for all of the senses. One of the things you just mentioned, which I thought was so important, is around evaluation and that constant monitoring. And one thing we're particularly passionate about is integrating sensory tactile evaluation techniques to make sure that we can effectively capture all different voices. And we also celebrate the success of our children, and so instead of working towards grades or exams, we just celebrate success. We have sharing shows, those kind of moments of joy, and particularly sharing with the parents and carers. So we have all sorts of different techniques and tactics to be able to capture those voices in a very kind of sensory, physical way as well.
And how do you advertise those programmes?
So we work quite closely with sort of nationwide charities. Although we are London-based and all of our delivery is across all the London boroughs, we do work with national organisations, various autism charities, different special schools that we have worked with on projects previously. And we're quite lucky that we have been running for 25 years now, previously as Mousetrap Theatre projects. That's what a lot of people will know us as. And so we have developed quite a a large database of families who are just waiting for the next relaxed performance offer to be made available to them. And for our families that access our Stage Scene and Envision family days, again, just waiting for that next opportunity to come up, because it doesn't seem like there is a great deal available for those families to access as a whole family unit. There may be some provision for young people, but it's really great that we love to get the families in the room all together accessing an activity.
How do you balance the new and old cohorts?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and it's an important one, and it is a dilemma that we face often. Sometimes we can be a bit constrained with funding in terms of it's either this or that. But hopefully through the range of programmes that we offer, we are able to incorporate both new families, new cohorts, whilst maintaining those existing relationships we have. So through our Family First Nights programme, that is aimed at new families who have not been to the theatre before. So each year it is hundreds of new families, whereas with our Stage Scene and Envision days for families with young people who are deaf or have a visual impairment, that is building on those existing relationships, and that's really important for those parents and carers, because they say that it's so valuable to meet other parents and carers, and they find it just as rewarding and enjoyable as their young person taking part in the workshop, and they really look forward to seeing other parents and carers again to be able to catch up and chat.
Lovely. What are the practical challenges limiting organisations from effectively engaging families? And what difficulties have you specifically encountered?
I think sometimes it is certainly with our sort of neighbours, our commercial West End theatre, it's having those contacts, and people do often reach out to us and say, can you share this with your database? Can you reach out to your families? And that has taken quite a long time to develop over the years, where we have now a very large number that we can reach out to. But I think sometimes some organisations might not have people in-house who are dedicated to creative learning, for example. So there isn't that kind of institutional memory that is retained over time if a person moves on. And that can affect us as well, our relationships. We're forever kind of re-establishing relationships. If we've had a bit of a champion in an organisation that we're working with, if they move on, we kind of have to start from scratch again a bit in terms of re-establishing that relationship of working together.
Yeah, and what can venues do in your experience to help families?
I think talking to them a bit more, because I think there is a bit of a disconnect between, if we're talking about theatres and audiences coming along, I think, yeah, having something like a forum, those, your agents of change, for us, our youth forum and our family forums, having those regular points of contact so that they can really listen. I know that some venues are doing that brilliantly, but certainly some others, just hopefully making those connections, they can have those ongoing conversations to make sure that their audience is being served in the way that they'd like to be. So we work closely with museums across London, as well as galleries, to really offer those other cultural opportunities for those families to engage in.
Layne, Katie, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been so lovely to chat to you.
Oh, thank you, Lucy.
Thanks very much, Lucy.
No worries. As we conclude today's episode, we want to extend a message of support to families seeking accessible opportunities for their children. Remember, you're not alone in this journey, and resources are within reach. Websites like Scope offer valuable insights into accessible days out, providing tips on approaching local museums, art galleries, and libraries to inquire about their accessibility offerings, along with helpful advice for planning a seamless day out. To organisations engaging with this episode, consider implementing the straightforward yet impactful tips our guests shared to enhance accessibility in your offerings. And a special mention to John Lyons Charity, a charity on a mission to hold organisations to account, to ensure what they offer can be accessed by all families, particularly those seeking accessibility opportunities. If you have experience, insights, or opinions on what you've learned during this episode, then please follow John Lyons Charity on Instagram, X, and LinkedIn. Let us know what you think.
Hi, my name's Anna Hoddenott and I'm the Senior Grants Manager at John Lyons Charity. I'm a white female and my pronouns are she, her. I'm wearing a bright print top and black trousers and I have blonde shoulder-length hair. I would like to thank all of our guests who came along today to share their really personal insights and how they find opportunities and activities for young people with learning and access needs in their family. I would also like to thank Justin Watson, the CEO of the YPF Trust, for giving such a raw insight from a father's perspective. As a grant giver, we at John Lyons Charity have a responsibility to interrogate organisations who claim to be inclusive, to ensure that they are including the voice of young people and their families, to ensure that their activities are truly accessible and not just tokenistic. Our Perspective series highlighted the importance of having activities that the whole family can access together, and this would maximise the benefit for children and young people with learning and access needs. For more information about our Perspective series and the funding opportunities available from John Lyons Charity, please see our website www.jlc.london.